Shift nap they smoke me pop. Chef nef move. Mwah. Welcome back to yet another episode. Today I'm going to do a What's in the Bag, but in honor of the spooky season, even though it's November here, I am going to do an all-horror Blu-ray, maybe DVD. I think there's a DVD or two in here. Pickup. So this is going to be an all-horror What's in the Bag. Let's do it. I'd love to know what you guys have picked up over the last couple months or couple weeks, whatever it may be, so feel free to leave that down in the comments. Yeah, so first up, The Swarm from Archive, Warner Archive Collection. Now, this I have never seen, and I did own it on DVD. My DVD was pretty beat up in terms of the artwork, but it ended up fetching a little bit, and I funded this almost fully with the DVD copy. That is hard to find. This I'm happy to have. I know it's, what's this, Irwin Allen? Did he direct this? I think, yeah, Irwin Allen directed. Irwin Allen is the guy behind, like, the Poseidon Adventure, Towering Inferno, things like that. The Swarm was his, I think it's like Killer African Bees. Yeah, Killer South African and South African Bees. So this is one of those that's probably going to use real bees, and I'm not going to be a fan of that because they were probably harmed in the making, but I'll at least give it a try and see if it's something I can get down with. That is The Swarm. The Swarm. Next up, we have a Stephen King adaptation that I have seen. This is Needful Things. Now, I haven't seen this movie in a long time. I was probably in my early 20s, so it's been about 10 years. But I want to say, I remember Max von Sydow playing sort of a death character, or like a devil, a Faustian sort of character, who makes a deal with Ed Harris, if I'm not mistaken. I guess I could just read the back. I'm trying to go off of, you know, what I remember. Harris has a devil of a problem. Suddenly all the residents of a sleepy town are dying to kill each other. But at least business is still booming, especially at a new antique store. The shop's mysterious owner has something for everyone, and his prices are always reasonable. Just one small favor. Eternal damnation. That's right. So it's sort of like the Monkey's Paw, sort of Faustian, that kind of a story. This was released by Kino. Definitely need to rewatch this. Who directed this? Good old Fraser C. Heston. Never heard of Fraser C. Heston. But that is Needful Things. Again, I had the DVD. I had found another copy out thrifting at some point. Sold both of those to fund this Kino release on of this Blu-ray. So that is Needful Things. Next up, I know nothing about this, so I'm going to rely on you guys to tell me. I think I'm confident I picked this up for $1. It's been a while. I don't remember when I picked this up. As you guys know, I have, or may or may not know, I have a just backstock of stuff to do What's in the Bags for. This is an older one, Todd Lincoln, Apparition, or The Apparition. I don't know anything about this. It looks just sort of like your run-of-the-mill aughts horror, like mid-aughts horror. I would... Oh no, okay, it's from 2011. I stand corrected. PG-13, this was still in that era during the aughts and the early 2010s where just horror films that were going to theaters were getting neutered to a PG-13 rating, and then they'd release them unrated or whatever at home. This one doesn't even have that. Not that it really matters, but we'll see. The Apparition. Anybody that I know in this one? Ashley Greene, I've definitely heard of. Sebastian Stan, okay, I'm pretty sure he's plays Winter Soldier. Is that right? Tom Felton. He was in a bunch of stuff. Harry Potter. He was in Rise of the Planet of the Apes too. So yeah, I do know some of the people involved. So yeah, we'll give The Apparition a try. How do you guys feel about this one? I have a feeling it's probably garbage. I Spit on Your Grave. This is the remake. I have not seen the original I Spit on Your Grave or the remake. These films are not really my cup of tea. I mean, I'm not even a big fan of Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, while recognizing its importance to the genre and what it did. It broke ground. It started a whole new subgenre. Girls getting lost in the woods and raped, essentially. But it's gone off in different ways, obviously. That's what Last House on the Left was. I think this has another rape, but it's more of a revenge sort of story, which I might enjoy more. Because Thriller, A Cruel Picture, is one of my favorite films of all time, and that has a very, very graphic rape. But the revenge that she wreaks on these dudes is worth the pain that the film puts you through. It's an uncomfortable movie, but it's important. And hopefully I Spit on Your Grave, the original, and the remake have something to say like that. So we'll see. This one, again, unrated copy. Let's see. Anchor Bay, Stephen R. Monroe, never even heard of him. And really nobody that I've heard of acting-wise. But I've heard good things about this remake. I hear it's a little bit more action-heavy, quicker pace, so I'll have to check out the original first, and then check out I Spit on Your Grave remake. Next up, this I think was a Dollar Tree find that I didn't get on camera, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I've shown this. I don't know. Army of Frankensteins. Not to be confused with Frankenstein's Army, which is an awesome little found footage World War II monster mash movie. It's pretty awesome, pretty punk. And this is Army of Frankensteins. We've got a U.S. and Confederate flag. We've got a guy with like a bionic arm on the front here. Yep. And a little bit of that action on the back. Actually doesn't look too bad. The North, the South, the Undead. This is a Scream Factory release, and I do think I picked this up at, I know I got it for $1, but I want to say it was a Dollar Tree months back. Either way, that is Army of Frankensteins. I'm hoping to have some fun with this one. The Lazarus Effect. This one I have not seen, but it gives me vibes of Flatliners, sort of like a modern-day remake or reimagining of the Flatliners story with a bunch of kids that a bunch of medical students that want to see what it's like after death and record their experiences as experimental evidence, essentially, of an afterlife. And the Lazarus Effect, Lazarus from the Bible was risen from the dead, so I'm assuming that something similar happens in this. They try to raise someone from the dead, and things don't go so well. That's the Lazarus Effect. I really don't know much about it. This one's got the slipcover. I like some of the imagery on the back. David Gelb. This is a Blumhouse picture, PG-13, so I'm hoping it's pretty good. Lazarus Effect. Next up, this is a film that I picked up at some random hole-in-the-wall pawn shop a couple months ago. I don't film everything that you guys end up seeing in my thrifting videos. They would just be even longer than they are as it is. So sometimes if I'm just sort of off the whim stopping somewhere, I won't film. But I found this Zombie Night, and I picked it up because it's John Gallagher. Now, John Gallagher had a great flick. I believe it was his first film, Feast. Feast is a really fun monster movie with a great practical creature, great colorful characters, all a little bit different, very diverse. It's got great twists and turns, great gore. It's just a overall solid horror flick. Now, I hear his sequels, Feast 2 and 3, are not anywhere near as good as the original. I've yet to see them for myself. This is John Gallagher's zombie movie. It says an old school zombie masterpiece on the back, in quotations with no credit as to who said it. So that's always a good sign. Anthony Michael Hall, Daryl Hannah, Shirley Jones, and Alan Ruck. So we've got a B-list cast there going on. Tonight at sundown, the dead will live. What a tagline. Unrated. I don't know nothing about Zombie Night, guys. It's got a generic name. This screams generic, doesn't it? But it's John Gallagher, so I want to give it a whirl, because I like Feast. So that is Zombie Night. Gotta look out for Zombie Day. The Fearless Vampire Killers. Warner Archive Collection. I sold off my DVDs to fund this, or my DVD to fund this. Happy to have this in the collection. This is Roman Polanski, who I'm not a fan of as a person. Roman Polanski's vampire parody film from the late 60s, I want to say. Or mid-60s, 66. So, he also directed this one, and he stars in it. He wrote the script, directed, and stars in it. I believe the main role. Fearless Vampire Killers, or, pardon me, but your teeth are in my neck. So, I'm glad to have this on Warner Archive. I've yet to see it. Very, very much so looking forward to checking this one out. This came 8 years before Young Frankenstein, so I'm curious to see if Mel Brooks was inspired by Polanski in any way to do Young Frankenstein. We shall see. I am looking forward to Fearless Vampire Killers. Next up, we've got one that I've had for quite a while again. The Scream Factory release of Body Parts. Once again, I sold off my DVD, made some money, put it towards this, and I'm happy to have Body Parts on Blu-ray. The first time watching Body Parts with Jeff Fahey, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a unique story, a unique take, I should say, on sort of the vampire mythos. the Frankenstein mythos, and it left an impression. You know, it left somewhat of an impression, but I didn't love it. It was like a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. But I'm looking forward to giving this one another shot because I think I'm going to like it even more next time around. I can't even pinpoint what I didn't really like about it because it's just been too long. So I'm happy to have upgraded to the Scream Factory release of Body Parts here. I have a feeling this will be going out of print soon, if it's not already. So that is Body Parts with Jeff Fahey and directed by Eric Red. That's right. Did he write it too? Yeah, he wrote and directed it. So Eric Red did Bad Moon. He also wrote Nature of the Beast, I want to say, and a few other pretty good genre flicks. So that is Eric Red's Body Parts. Next up, we have Lake Placid, a film that I've seen multiple times. I saw this when I was a kid when it came out. I want to say I was probably 9 or 10. And I remember sitting around in the living room around the TV with the family and popped in the Lake Placid VHS, and we loved it. We had a blast with this movie, my family that is, when I was a kid. I rewatched this a couple years ago and absolutely loved it even more actually because I recognized, I believe it's Stan Winston's effects. Was it Winston or Baker? Stan Winston Studios did the effects for the croc here, and it is an awesome effect. There is CG, but they also used an animatronic, and they blended the two really well. This is coming off the coattails of Jurassic Park, and so they really did their homework and figured out what amount of lighting they needed for the creature, for the practical creature, even for the CG stuff, how to light it, how to shoot it. There are some wonky scenes, a little rubbery here and there, but as a whole, effects-wise, this movie does hold up quite well. It's got great kills, it's got great characters, it's got really funny moments. Betty White is hilarious in this movie. Bill Pullman, daughter of someone famous. Damn it, I forgot her name. Bridget Fonda, Oliver Platt, Brendan Gleeson is great in this too. This is just quintessentially fun 90s monster movie stuff right here. This and Anaconda I loved as a kid. It was like the double feature to rule all double features. I think they came out in 90. 97 was Anaconda, 99 was this, so I was 11 when this came out. Loved both films a lot. And I'll say that this holds up better than Anaconda, but I still really like Anaconda to this day. I still think it's a great monster movie with good effects that hold up. Lake Placid is awesome. Once again, from Scream Factory, got the reversible joint right there artwork. And yeah, really happy to have Lake Placid. Sold off my DVD, which I didn't even know was out of print, and fetched a good amount for it and put it towards this, which I got for almost nothing because I bought it used on eBay. So that's how you do it. This one I bought during October. Actually, I didn't get a chance to watching it, but again, I had 2 copies of this from different distributors. The Legend of Boggy Creek, sold off my DVDs. I want to say I made like $15 profit on one of them and then $10 profit on the other. This I ordered from the Boggy Creek website, I believe, or was it Amazon? I think they sell through Amazon. Yeah, it was Amazon. And got this for like $25, $26 shipped with Prime. So really happy to now own The Legend of Boggy Creek on DVD or on Blu-ray here. This is a very old, very early example of a mockumentary. It's one of the top grossing docudramas of all time. Maybe it's not a mockumentary. Maybe it was a real sort of docudrama sort of thing on the subject of Bigfoot. I'm reading as we go here. I thought this was more a mockumentary. It's got actually a quote from the Blair Witch guys here. Dan Merrick says, "When I was young, The Legend of Boggy Creek scared me to death, and its pseudo-documentary style was a big influence on us," Merrick and Sanchez. And actually, Sanchez has a quote here, too. There would have been no Blair Witch without Legend of Boggy Creek. So, really excited to check this out. I am going to count it as a mockumentary, really, even if the filmmakers approached it realistically. I'm not dismissing the idea of a creature that we don't know exists or whatever. Like, I'm not getting into all that, but all I'm saying is this movie is gonna play out like a mockumentary to me. And you guys know how much I love found footage and mockumentary style stuff and screen life movies, stuff like that. So this is pretty much the granddaddy of them all. I want to say this even came out prior, I could be wrong, but I think it came out prior to Cannibal Holocaust. If not, around the same time. This in America, Cannibal Holocaust in Italy, of course. But that is The Legend of Boggy Creek. I love that hand-drawn, hand-painted cover. The artwork there, I think it's fantastic. So, The Legend of Boggy Creek. All right, next up is... Oh, man, this movie means a lot to me because I distinctly remember watching this on VHS with my father in the 90s. We had this on VHS. I distinctly remember finding it in the basement in a box of VHS that we didn't have displayed for some reason. And all I saw was a zombie on the back, and it freaked me out. I was probably like 6 or 7, and I asked my dad if we could watch it, and he deemed it was appropriate for probably a 6 or 7-year-old. That is Dead Heat. One of Vincent Price's last performances, in fact. I believe his last live-action one was Edward Scissorhands, and then I believe he did a voice for Prince and the Pauper, and that was the end of his career, I believe. This was one of the last roles he did, live action, and it's a bit part, but he's in it for a good 5, 6, 7 minutes, maybe. And this movie is just so much fun. Dead Heat. This is a zombie buddy cop movie from 88, 89? It says 96 on the back. It's definitely not 96. I want to say 88. I think this was in my top 10 films from the year I was born. 1988, we'll go with. Treat Williams, who I love, who never got enough work, didn't get the right projects. I love Deep Rising. I love some of the movies he's in. Just awesome. And then Joe Piscopo, who is an SNL alum, I want to say. Never really the funniest guy. You know, he has an interesting look because he's super jacked, super diesel, and then he's kind of goofy. But he never really did too much for me on SNL or anything, but in this, he's perfect, playing off of Treat Williams. A little over the top, but I really like Joe Piscopo and Treat Williams in this movie. I'll just say, one of them becomes a zombie, and they have to learn how to work together, despite one of them being a zombie. Mark Goldblatt, that's right, the famous editor, Mark Goldblatt, actually directed this one. I'm not sure if he directed anything else, but yeah, this movie is just a blast. It's got action, it's got humor, it's got horror, it's got it all. Everything that I love about cinema. Right here in one movie. This is a Midnight Madness series release by Image, and I cannot recommend this film enough. This movie is just so much fun. Check out Dead Heat if you have the time. It is awesome. Dead Heat. Very nostalgic for this movie, too. My father and I love this one. Got a few left here. Cube. Sold off my DVDs. Yes, I had multiple DVDs of Cube and got the All Region? Is it All Region? It is a Region B Blu-ray. Cube. This is Vincenzo Natali's first film, I believe. And Natali is a filmmaker who I definitely want to talk about because he's only got about a handful of films that he's directed. A couple more maybe than a handful. I want to say maybe 5 or 6. But I want to talk about them because he gets cyberpunk, William Gibson, corporate espionage, weird future better than anybody I've seen in terms of getting it close to how William Gibson wrote about it. And I love his work. I love how cerebral it is. I love how graphic it is at points and how weird and off the beaten path it is. Like Splice. Natali did Splice, and Splice was a mainstream movie that was... I don't know how he got the funding to make that movie. I don't know who greenlit that, but I'm glad they did because it's super weird, and I really love it. But Cube is even better, and Cypher, his second film, I want to say his second or third film, Cypher, is my favorite of his. I'm going to talk about his movies. I just did a little bit. I'm going to talk about his movies in a video at some point. But Cube, a bunch of people get trapped in this weird cube. I don't want to say too much without spoiling it. They're all very different. All have their strengths and weaknesses, and they have to work together to figure out how to get out of this cube as they start dropping like flies. So Cube is really fun. I think James Wan was definitely inspired by like Abominable Mr. Phibes and Cube. I do think James Wan saw Cube and was inspired to make Saw because it has a lot of similar things going on. And when Saw came out, I remember like, guys, Cube! Do you remember Cube? But anyway, Cube is awesome. I want to say it's from 97. It is a 90s movie. Yep, 97, and that is Cube. I love that cover too. It gets all the paranoia and the claustrophobia that the film has. Cube or Cube. Next up, we have The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is one that I haven't seen. Charles Lawton and Maureen O'Hara in the Warner version of Hunchback of Notre Dame. I love Charles Naughton from what I've seen. He was in The Old Dark House. He was in The Island of Lost Souls. 2 films I love. He's the more I see from him, I think he's going to turn into one of my favorite 20s and 30s actors. He was just really, really good. 30s and 40s more so. I think he was acting in the 20s, but more during the talkie era. This is from what, 41? I want to say, 39. RKO picture here. Yeah, so I don't know much about this movie. I mean, obviously, Hunchback of Notre Dame. I've seen the Disney version of that. I've not read the book or anything like that. So, is it even a book? Was it a play? I have no idea. That is Charles Laughton in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, directed by William Dieterle. No idea. Looking forward to checking this out, though. And last, but certainly not least, I'd say definitely most in this case, one of my favorite horror movies of all time, Scream Factory, finally put this out last year, a couple years ago now. Sold off my DVD and finally picked up The Manitou. I actually own the original poster for The Manitou. Yes, from 1977, 78? 78. We've got William Girdler, whose career was cut so short. He died when he was like in his late 20s or 30s, I want to say. Was he in his 30s? And he had made a bunch of genre flicks, and he was scouting for his new movie called The Elementals, I think it was called. And he got in a plane or a helicopter crash, I believe it was. I could be getting my details wrong. But he made The Manitou before that. And The Manitou is his best picture, in my opinion. This movie has so many cool things going on at once. It's surreal. It's weird. You'll laugh. You'll cry with laughter. And there are some legitimately spooky sequences with great practical effects. The seance scene is one that I really always come back to. It's just really well done. But this movie is about an ancient Native American medicine man who is a little person who comes in the form of a tumor. He grows in the tumor of a woman and then is birthed from her neck. Birthed from her neck to wreak havoc on humanity for some reason. Yeah, that's the story in a nutshell, and it's every bit of awesome that it sounds like it is. It's got an incredible cast with Tony Curtis and Michael Ansara and Suzanne Strasberg, Burgess Meredith in one of the most ridiculous cameos you'll ever see, where he is just off the cuff. If there was a script, I'll be damned. I'll be damned if there was a script for Burgess Meredith. Girdler called him in and was like, Burgess, here's the gist. Do your thing. And he is so quirky, walking around his apartment, eccentric, flubbing lines. It's so cool to see him work just in his element. Burgess was a great character actor. Anyway, I could talk about this forever, based on a Graham Masterson novel called The Manitou that William Girdler got the rights to in like no time and started producing this movie. He had a bright future ahead of him, and it's a shame, but he left us. His last film was The Manitou, and it is honestly special. I love this movie. I love The Manitou. Check out The Manitou. I just want to thank you all for checking out this What's in the Bag, this special horror edition of What's in the Bag, where I went over a bunch of Blu-rays that I got over the last couple months or so. You guys know how I do. I've got a bunch backstocked, ready to do these episodes. I'd love to know what you guys have picked up recently, so feel free to leave that down in the comments below and we'll get a little discussion roll. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more videos like it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell for notifications. I also have t-shirts and a Patreon. Links are in the description below. Anyway, guys, I will see you all next time. TheBoredCyborg is gone. Peace.